the year is actually the election of the chair. So I am going to do that election. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call for nominations 3 times, and someone will hopefully nominate someone to be chair, and then I will ask that person if their name is willing to stand, and we'll do that 3 times. So calling for nominations a first time for chair for Slocan Valley South Recreation Commission. Sorry, I can't nominate.
I'll nominate Eden DuPont.
Eden, do you accept the nomination?
I don't know if I do actually. I sort of wanted to know how the new business 7.1 on the agenda. I really am curious what the new responsibilities of our commission are. And so I don't really feel that I want to take on the chair unless I understand what the role is.
So the role of so maybe more of what the role of the commission is, because the role of the chair doesn't really change.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is that whether I want to continue to stay on the commission based on the changes for the whole commission. Yeah, okay. I do understand what the chair would
no problem. Just want to make sure. Yeah. So Eden, yes. Would you accept being chair for this meeting? We could redo this process if the commission wants at the next meeting.
Sure. Yeah, I would. For this meeting, I would accept the responsibility of chair.
Does that sound fair to commission?
Sure, that sounds fair.
Yeah.
Stacy? Okay, so I'm going to say that that's 3. So how about we do this? Eden, as I ratify that you are chair for the March 5th meeting of the Slocan Valley South Regional Parks Recreation Commission number 8 for today. Okay. And we are here at number 1. Can you see that clearly? Just make it a little bit bigger. So you just call, Eden, you just call the meeting.
Oh, we can go ahead and start?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I call to order the meeting at 7:18 p.m. And we'll begin with the traditional land acknowledgement. And we acknowledge today and respect the Indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we are meeting today. So item number 3, adoption of the agenda. Is there someone that would like to move the adoption of the agenda or make any changes?
I have a question, Phil. I'm supposed to, Walter asked me to, we need to write Joanne Chapman a thank you letter for her years of service. And I think he said before the adoption of the agenda, would add that as a new business?
Yeah, so sorry, so what he meant by that, Phil, was that we need to add it to the agenda. So absolutely, and it's to make a recommendation to the board to send Joanne a letter of thanks.
Okay, so it's Pearl, are you, Pearl's taking notes? Is that what I understand?
Yes.
Pearl's, yeah.
Okay. So to add that to the new business, is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, we will pass that, the adoption of the agenda as circulated. Oh, do we need, I guess we need a seconder, and we need someone to make, I will make the motion. Can I have a seconder?
Phil,
Bill seconds and none opposed, so the agenda is adopted. So we'll move to the receipt of the minutes. Would anyone like to review anything from the minutes from November the 7th? Or are they good as read in the agenda package? Someone would like to make that motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda minutes. Phil?
And a seconder? I don't think Stacy can second because she wasn't there. So I guess I will second.
Yeah, so through the chair, the minutes are actually just received with the agenda. So it's just if there was any errors or omissions. If there's not, there's actually, you don't need to do anything.
Okay, great. Okay, so on to number 5. Do we have Jen with us? Jen from the Slocan Valley Early Childhood Community Advisory Council will present a request for funds for the play box. Jen, are you on the call? Who might be the observer? I see one unknown listed as observer. Is that you, Jen?
No, I think the mix up, the poor starting of the meeting, probably we've lost Jen.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Maybe she's muted. Maybe she's just muted.
No, I don't believe she's on.
No, okay.
Okay.
So what
Okay.
we'll do is through the chair to Eden, like what we'll do is we'll reach out to Jen tomorrow morning.
Okay. Okay, so then we'll move on to staff reports.
So through the chair, so there's a staff report there about the Family Day event. Just wondering if there's any questions regarding it. Sorry for dragging you through the agenda, but I'll just get to the staff report in case there's any questions. Oops, there we go. Too far. Just, were there any questions about the event?
Nope, I think it
Sounded
was.
like it was a good event.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it did. And so like, just so everyone's aware, that is funded by a BC Provincial Family Day grant. I think we received 4 of them, Trish, I think at least 4 grants across the district.
Joe, do they do any kind of evaluation of that from participants?
Through the chair, Trish, I don't know if you know through Heather at the complex if they did a participant evaluation.
Yeah, through the chair, not to my knowledge, was there a formal evaluation? I think it's more kind of as the event gets rolling, someone like Annabelle, and I believe there was another staff person there wandering around and chatting with people and just sort of giving some anecdotal feedback to the event. We did hear that it was well received and people really appreciated having those activities on Family Day weekend.
And is there any idea of numbers?
Yes,
that came out?
Just quickly scanning the report because
I didn't see anything in there for
yeah,
numbers.
there was, because I know we talked about it as a staff team. I want to say there was upwards of 90 plus people at the event.
I think my mom was there. She said it was fantastic, so.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Any other comments from anyone on the BC Family Day event?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay, we'll move on to 6.2, the draft operational budget report. Is that you, Joe?
Yeah, yes, through the chair. Yeah, so, I think we've discussed a number of times. So Rec 8, originally was primarily, we had a lease, well, we still have a lease at Slocan Park Hall. But primarily it was a program delivery service. Since the acquisition of Campbell Field and a number of other park initiatives, it has changed a bit to where we actually have significant assets in the service. So I'll just run through that, and really those significant assets are actually impacting the operational budget as well. So there's a $75,000 draft increase to the requisition this year for the service, and that's really based around a number of pieces. And so I'll just try to go through the main points here. So there is a $50,000 capital budget here, and that is for the old schoolhouse, but that is actually completely funded by reserves from the old schoolhouse service and the board's allocation of the Growing Community Funds grant in 2023. So that project is actually not impacting requisition at the moment. With this service, there are now 2 reserve funds. They're actually both for the old schoolhouse property. So there's the 15,000 for the Growing Communities Fund and 60,000 for the old schoolhouse. I did meet with the South Slocan. It's not called the Commission of Management anymore. Shoot, I just forget what they call the South Slocan piece now. They are looking at starting a fundraising committee to raise funds for the improvements of that piece of property. So that the proviso for them is that any improvements to the property must come from fundraising. They won't come from taxation. So the operational budget piece, what's always interesting in these pieces, and this is one of those services that's a pretty stark example of it. The actual operational budget is only increased 2.38%. So it's only over 2023. The operational budget's increased $8,267. So that increases in a number of different places. It's in salaries. In particular, though, the salary piece, if you look, there's a $20,000 increase in salaries, but a $17,000 decrease in contract expenditures. This service has always had this back and forth between whether an instructor is salaried or whether an instructor is a contractor. So in this case, that switch has happened. Again. So that really is a reflection that instructors are not in contracts; they are in salaries. There's still some contracted salary or contracted pieces for programming, but most of those are now in salaries. The other increase is into general administration, information tech, and ComServe. What's really changed, because there are now 3 parks in the service, that has changed the ComServe fee. Community services is a general allocation for cross-recreational services for centralized regional park staff and programming and overhead staff for community services like me. But The big change in this service is the park. So this service never used to have park fees included in community services fee. It now does. So that's where that big change primarily happens there. We talked about the contracted services. And there's about $10,338 in decrease in other areas of the service. Sometimes there's been funding that's been rolling over and it hasn't been spent. And so we've called those pieces out that aren't required anymore. But the biggest impact to the service actually happens on the revenue side. And that is essentially that surplus. So what we didn't spend in 2022 and came into 2023 as surplus had shrunk by $68,000. And so really what that means is that we spent our operational budget. We spent more of our operational budget in 2023. So that's decreased that surplus. And that's what's actually impacting taxation the most. Does that make sense how that's shifting around? Ask questions.
Yeah, well, if it makes sense to you, Joe, it's a lot of numbers there.
Yeah, sorry.
Like the taking down of the old Slocan or the Slocan schoolhouse, that was a separate budget, you said?
Yeah, so that budget was that project was run through the service, but it didn't cost the service any money. So we funded that from that growing communities fund in 2023.
So where is that surplus now? Like,
So that's
it's sitting at that 68,000?
so that all that so that decrease in surplus. If you don't mind me scrolling, I'll show you. So that's this amount right here. So the reason I said it only decreased 68, it's actually a lot more, but that surplus, there was not, that's not all operational surplus in 2023. Some of that was fundraising for Cristova, for the regional park. Those are all monies that we collected in 2022 for the purchase of Cristova. So what was actually the operational surplus was about $119,000. Of that 371 was operational surplus in 2023. So remember that in regional district budgets, when we collect revenue or we have unexpended funds, that money doesn't move anywhere else. It stays inside the service. So that is where that funding is.
And would that have surplus originally been because of the lack of programming that we did in the last few years?
Correct. So it's the net savings from not running that programming.
I mean, that sounds good because we've got surplus money, but it's bad how we got it, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
That's what I'm getting out of it. So how do we move forward from that?
So I think that the first piece is that just that discussion about, really we're in a transition. Like, I think we've talked about this a number of times, but it's maybe summed up here. The service is moving from a programming to a service with significant parks and recreation infrastructure. So that really over the next year, we're going to have to work on that. I think the programming piece of the service is there's a much more robust plan coming into 2024 for that piece. And I can let Trish talk about that a little bit. And I had some pieces there, like the expansion of the summer camp program will happen this year. Swimming programs will come back. Youth skills programming will come back, and some traditional adult programming will also be coming back this year. And it will be developed throughout the year. But so like those are going to be the programming pieces, but really it's going to be a learning year for commission about having regional parks and those kinds of pieces that will come up and what that means.
But Joe, there's no real plans for those regional parks, is there, moving forward in the next year or two?
No, there's significant work that's going to be done, will be done in them. I think whether it be park planning processes. So for example, at the next commission meeting, you'll be receiving a biodiversity report on Cristova. So that will help guide us in what those development plans are for Cristova moving forward. There's also the regional park strategy work that will be done. So that piece will be engagement with the commission, with all commissions at 2 parks in the regional district. So there's going to be some major significant planning pieces that will come forward to commission for review. There may not necessarily be work done this year, but there will be planning that will be done. In particular around Campbell's Field, my expectation is that probably the fall, that there'll be something coming forward for Campbell Field.
Okay.
So, a big piece that will be coming forward is that planning for assets. So whether it, to your point, Phil, part of this will be about what are those future projects going to look like. This commission will get to have some very much a big advisory role into those projects. So that will require people around this commission's input into it.
Okay, Joe, thank you.
So I think, almost everything in the report talks about that piece, that we're going to really need commission to help us frame out the strategic plan for the work in this service area. Those 3 parks and the programming piece, it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience for all of us moving through it. Because these are such new pieces of property. We're really going to have to go over all the work that was done on Campbell Field, reevaluate that work, look at what the Cristova piece is, and start making some priorities.
Okay, Joe.
So just if there's any questions, the report is here for information and for myself to answer any questions of the commission.
So Joe, I guess I have a question of whether that's in this next item on the agenda. Is that what you're going to elaborate on? Is how that's going to change our roles?
Yeah, I mean, like really, the role piece is that's probably the best place for that. But right now, this part is just about if there's any questions on the actual budgeting and that part of the financial plan.
So are there any further questions for Joe from the commission on the budget that he's presented? No?
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on then to 7.1.
And I'll just stop sharing. So, the commission has changed with those pieces. So, I think I don't know if that's creating fear with the members that are on here, if it's not really what you had signed up for. But the scope of what will be commission decisions coming forward is really lots of it's going to be around park development, park asset management plans, park reports. The programming will still be there. It's still recovering coming out of COVID, but that's still there. But definitely where you're going to see a lot more of the expenditures going will be into that park development area. I think there's actually a lot of exciting things there. When you see the biodiversity report example for Crestova, that's pretty exciting, like what is actually on that property, where we can take that. That's I think there's lots of opportunity for good input there and good engagement. I think Campbell Field will become more important as we progress through the year. There are two big studies going on, two big community engagements around indoor facilities, one in Castlegarden area and one in Nelson area. So those two things will have some impact. And we are starting to have community come forward on Campbell Field and say, hey, we'd really like to see some of these types of amenities built there. So those kinds of things will start coming forward. And then we have, definitely a strong group of volunteers in and around South Slocan and around the future development of that piece of property. Some pretty cool pieces there that as they get up and going, they will actually present into this commission for feedback and for guidance. So those are kind of the big things that are coming, but I know I think that lots of these additional park pieces may feel like they've been done to commission and not so much from commission. But just to note that each one of those pieces was brought on by the public. Crestova was a pretty amazing campaign that raised the funds to buy that piece of property. So that's pretty cool. So although it may not have been interest in particular people's interest around the commission table, definitely was of interest to the community at large. So those kinds of things are there. I don't know, really this was meant as a chance for you to ask some questions about how that changes, how other park commissions work, those kinds of pieces. I don't want it to be about me just speaking.
Yeah, I think I'll just, if I can make a comment that since I've joined the commission, because of the timing of when I joined, it's been very unclear to me as to what exactly the role of the commission is with the changes in staffing and all of the sort of the variances around meetings and how they've been, conducted. And I have felt very unclear as to what exactly our role is right from the get-go, from when I started. And so what would really help me is if I had a better understanding of what is the time commitment, what is the exact, what are the actual responsibilities and roles that we play, because I don't feel as though that's very clear to me. And I'm not quite sure whether I know that there's lots of different reasons for the way the last 3 years have gone. But if there is more clarity with this change, that would be helpful. to know whether I want to invest that time, because it sounds like it's going to be a bigger time commitment in reviewing reports and whatnot. Am I getting that sense correct?
Yeah, I think you'll see more in different reports coming forward. But I think even like I think the big piece through the year is that you probably have to carve out some time to sit down and just talk about these pieces, in particular when Walter's available to be a part of it, and just brainstorm how we want the commission to work. What are the types of things you want brought forward to commission, and those types of pieces.
And so is our role to be gathering that information ourselves from constituents? Like, are we supposed to be talking to people in our community and asking them their input, or this is just me personally, what I think?
So you're definitely a conduit to the community, but you're not necessarily the people that have to do that work. Like, that work is something that we can assign, to our staff to do, our staff to be looking into how we could conduct those types of engagements.
Okay.
So for example, like the Campbell Field, unfortunately, the Campbell Field engagement started pre-COVID, and kind of so much of what we've done ran into COVID in this commission. So those are the pieces where we probably need to stop, go back, review what was done, and try to plot out a course going forward.
And what, Joe, what is the skill set you're looking for from this commission?
I guess interest and curiosity, I guess, is the skill set. We're not necessarily looking for any kind of particular expertise.
Okay. So you're not looking for representation of a certain demographic of the community then in individual commissions?
No, I think what you might see is that we definitely might want to have people that are very much interested in the parks piece. Like we to add in, like if there's someone that is very interested in that area, those are kind of some of the things that we want to bring forward into the committee. But it doesn't. But the most important thing that I always find that commissions work best when there's broad-minded people who are thinking broadly across all of those areas.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anyone else that has any comments on this topic?
Yeah, this is Sharon. I think it's very exciting news for sure. And I agree with you, Eden. It has been a really big shift from what we talked about when I first came on the commission like 9 years ago. It was all about programming. This is exciting. It's new, and the Campbell Field process. It involved for me at that time a couple more meetings than our regular 4 meetings a year that we have. But this is exciting, and I think, especially as I'm connected with the schools and stuff, I think it's exciting to bring students on board. Currently, we're working in the sustainability policy for the district, and I think this all really ties into that. So this is exciting work for me, I think.
Hey, Joe, is it a secret about what's going on with Campbell Field? Like you said, there's a lot of interest, but what is that interest? Is it the interest that came out in the mail that was sent to everybody? What would you like, or is there more than you anticipated, or?
I think what's exciting is that there's probably change that's coming in both. So right now, Area H is kind of in the middle of the two big recreational services in Castlegar and Nelson. So it's just that those two services are entering into significant consultation. We expect to hear in that consultation that Campbell Field will be brought up. I don't know where that will go, but it's definitely going to be brought up. And I know that there's going to be consultation in Area I that will bring that forward as a wants and desire, but why does everything have to be in the major municipalities? Why can't we have some more services in this corridor located there? I don't know where that's going to go, Phil, because that consultation hasn't started yet. Hasn't started, the engagement process hasn't started yet, but those pieces are starting. Trish, I can't remember when our first engagement into Area I begins. I believe it's April, but
Yeah, through the chair, it's slotted roughly right now for kind of in those first couple of weeks of April. The schedule is still being set, but yes, there should start to be some communication related to when those meetings occur imminently, I would say in the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
I guess I'm wondering is the reason that maybe there is more interest at this time is because we have the land where in those larger communities beside us, they may not have that access to the land that we have.
I think definitely there is a piece of that. There's also just really, I think we've got to let that consultation take place. But it's going to be very interesting to see what the community feedback is from those areas. I think for the when we were doing the consultation, say previously in Castlegarden area, Phil, remind me, when did we actually do the transfer from the society to the district for Campbell Field?
it's gotta be 7-8 years.
So was it like 2017, 2000? I can't remember. I know that it's around that time, but it's just so much. So much has transpired.
16, 17 for sure.
Yeah, so Campbell Field was relatively new and wasn't actually even a thought during those two other master planning processes on the other side. In fact, it wasn't even a thought during the master planning process for Area H because it came on after that. So, it's going to be very interesting because Campbell Field is much more it's much more well known now that it is available through the Campbell Field consultations that we did through 2019 and 2020. I don't want to put any pressure on anyone, but please, it's really important that I would say, Eden, you were asking about the chair role. What I would say is where the chair role really, and Phil, you're probably been chair through some of the more difficult time of COVID, but usually the chair helps staff try to guide what those processes and what those conversations that are needed around the table. So, I definitely would think that that's something that is different now because what the service is funding and what's included in the budget has changed so much.
Yeah, I suppose, I guess that's why I'm curious about the membership right now, is that it feels as though it's unclear what our role is when we come to these meetings, and typically there's not a lot of discussion, and so whether we need to recruit, I know we've lost Joanne, and at what point do we have to kind of gather as a commission to say, like, this is why we're meeting, as opposed to just to meet quorum.
Agreed.
I want it, it's not that I want these meetings to be valuable for everybody in terms of what our input is, right? And if it's not clear what we're supposed to be, why we're supposed to attend, then that doesn't feel productive for me, a good use of my time or anyone's. So,
You know, and Trish, just jump in here with anything that you might think that you can, that you have to add. What I would really say is, because we're in this planning phase for this, that is actually the most exciting time for commissions, usually because that's the time where we're trying to set out where we want to go. What is that piece? So we've got those three major pieces of property. We've got these other consultations that are going on. Like, that's where the strategy in that comes forward and comes in. So that's why, you know, I think the one thing that this commission needs to do is set some time aside to have those broad-based discussions, really understand what's in the service now with the parks, and understand what those pieces are. As you had said, Eden, like, are there going to be more reports? Yeah. When it comes to property and that, there's going to be the biophysical. What's on what's in Crestova? What are those development opportunities that are there? Those pieces will all be coming for this committee to help the commission to help shape. Hey, we need to do public engagement here. We're going to do, like, one of the things we've got to do with this, the Crestova piece, is hold some public engagement in and around that community. And it's really important for commission to be involved in those engagement processes.
and so,
Hi, Joe. It's Sharon Myers. I'm just joining the meeting.
Oh.
I'm sorry to be late.
hi,
Hello?
Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay.
We're just discussing the roles of the commission moving forward.
All right.
Go ahead, Tricia.
Thanks, Eden. So through the chair, I'm being relatively new to the regional district still myself, Eden. I guess I'm a little bit curious as to, if I recall correctly, my memory isn't always very good, so please correct me if I'm wrong. You're a new commissioner too, right? To the group. And so I'm just curious, maybe through your own reflection, what you've noticed through your involvement, what would have made you feel more comfortable coming into a role, even on the commission? Like, is there something that as staff that we could do differently to support new directors on the commission, or commissioners on the commission? Or is there, I'm even just like, I'm listening to Joe talk about some of the things that are coming up, and sometimes, and not that I know any of us probably want more meetings to, have meetings, but sometimes it helps stay engaged in what's going on by having maybe the meeting frequency would look a little different, knowing that there's some bigger items coming down the line. Or I'm just curious as to maybe if anyone, either yourself or others, have feedback on how we can support you differently in your role.
Yeah, I think for me, being like newish to the commission, I've heard historically how it used to be through other people that have been involved, and so, with the focus being predominantly on programming and input into programming and providing, those kinds of meeting opportunities to hash out, possible program ideas and instructors, and talk about within our communities, like, what do people want to learn and how and whatnot. So that's my understanding of how it historically was, the role of the commission was to be. Is that correct? Mostly?
That sounds correct to me from what I've understood too.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning alongside you.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of like, I'm not sure, for example, what is done, say, at an orientation level, or how we help, because sometimes it can feel like, being fed through a fire hose at some of the meetings, where there's lots of stuff that people have been working on between meetings, and then suddenly, we're in it, and there's people like staff that are in the background living and breathing this stuff all day long, and
Yeah.
then you get to a meeting and suddenly there's all this stuff that we're trying to give you, and just whether it's too much, too little.
Well,
I
I
don't,
think on top of that, with the way that like when I joined in 2020, so you can imagine what happened. We stopped meeting, and then there was no programming, and then there was there was all kinds of different RDCK employee movement and contracts, not sure who was doing what, where, and when. And so the meetings were quite disjointed, in my opinion, without knowing what my responsibility was. And so now I feel that we're starting to get back into we're in post COVID now. We're running programs and whatnot, but because of this change, specifically away from that programming historical advisory role into this more asset management, I would really love to know, like, from all the commissioners, who still is interested in being part of this commission with this change, if we had a clear sense of, or a clearer sense of, okay, this is the job description, this is what we're going to ask of you, and then to hear from everyone whether they're interested in still being part of that. That's what I would hope we could clarify going forward.
So I'm not sure if that's a question for us or a question for the
Yeah.
commission.
Well, and that's just it. I feel like there's a lot of sort of quiet around the table, and without knowing what everyone's hopes and dreams are for this commission, it's really hard to like jump in and say, let's do this.
And Joe, like, I've been commissioner for, a few years. And I mean, wasn't there supposed to be some training for the commissioner?
That would be great.
Do you remember, Joe? I don't know.
Yeah, we really haven't done training. Well, I guess you know what, like this commission is probably usually because there's more continuity, I think what's actually missing is not so much training for the commissioner, because it's more about sitting down and actually talking about what's in the service and what are the tools that we have to move forward. And I really think that's what is missing, is a little bit of that strategic discussion piece. For me, that's really going through the master plan that was done in Area H, and walking through the Campbell Field stuff again, because I think we've all lost kind of touch of that just because of that thing called the pandemic in the middle.
Or don't even have an understanding of it. Like,
Yeah.
that's where I'm coming from, is I still don't have an understanding of what it is that we're trying to do here.
So this is where putting it this is where, as a commission, if that's something we want to do, like, we can set up, like, one of the things that you could say to us tonight is set up a workshop to do those things. We want to have those discussions around these pieces that you define, and we can then bring that material together and do it in person. Just so you know, we've actually probably are almost there with the technology, so that you don't need to gather around a laptop and that kind of stuff. It's coming together. I gotta admit, that part for me has been very disappointing on a regional district point of view, that they haven't provided us the tool to do this in a more cohesive way. I really hate this kind of a meeting. I've had 4 of them today. So it would be really nice to get back to where we are meeting in person around a table around those topics, so that we can actually move around and do some real planning type work that I don't know that we can do in this type of virtual environment necessarily.
Okay,
found
well
it-
then that's what I would ask of, am I asking that of you or Walter, or who is our?
All you need to do is do a motion to direct staff to and host to set up a planning workshop for Recreation Commission number 8. And then I'll let you fill in the topics as a commission of what you want to be brought forward in that meeting.
Okay. I put forward that motion to request staff to organize a workshop for the commission to review topics that will be determined by the commissioners, existing commissioners, and it to be in person before the next meeting. Is that doable?
Yeah, we just gotta get through budget, so
Okay.
gotta get through March.
I found it more when we had the commission meetings in person, there was more discussion. Because there's not this silence that you have on the phone. Everybody's waiting for the next person to talk and then you just don't talk. Whereas you're sitting around the table having discussions on say Campbell Field. Well, there's questions asked. People are, basically waiting with their hands up for a question. When you do it this way, you're just sitting there paused and don't know when to speak. That's just my input, but
Yeah, I agree. So.
I agree as well.
Yeah, I think that I definitely feel disconnected by the not sitting around the table and being able to ask the questions and look at people and get a feel for where we're going. Yeah, and I've missed a few meetings because I haven't been able to get into the meeting from where I am or however that works. And so I agree. I think it's time we do something like this.
Stacy, did you have any comment?
who did you ask, Eden?
Just Stacy.
Oh,
We
Stacey.
haven't heard from her. I'm just wondering if she has any input for us. I've lost her.
So through the chair, Eden.
Yeah.
As the chair of this meeting,
Mhm.
would you work with Trisha and I to set that up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do need a seconder for that motion.
Oh, sorry, absolutely. Just
Can I get a
Phil,
seconder for the
Phil.
motion?
Phil.
This is
I
I'll
can
sec-
second it, Sharon.
That was Sharon.
Sharon and Sharon.
Sharon and Sharon. Thank you, Sharon's. Okay, anyone opposed? Well, Stacy's having problems with her new computer.
is Stacy on the phone or is she on? No, she's on the.
She's on the computer, but she's having issues
Yeah.
maybe with her audio.
Sorry, Stacy.
Okay, so none opposed, so then that is approved. Right? Where are we at with our?
So you are at. Oops, sorry. Sorry for making you.
Oh, go ahead. trying to
Even
find
I mean, it
the
doesn't,
agenda again.
so we've talked about that. You are at the point to make the recommendation for the letter of thanks that you added to the agenda,
Oh, yes. So,
to Joanne.
yes, so then the other order of new business is that we write a thank you letter to Joanne Chatton for her service. Does anyone know the details of that? Of how long she's been, yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, there's a standard letter that the regional district will put together. It's just that, so what you're actually asking is making a recommendation to the board so that the board sends the letter of thanks on behalf of all the regional districts.
Okay. So I request that I put forward a motion that we put that forward to the board, that they write that letter and send it to Joanne. Can I get a seconder?
Phil, second.
Seconded.
Anyone opposed? None. Okay, so then that is passed. So now we're at the public time. Is there anyone on the line that would like to make any comments from the public
It's actually just questions, but
or questions?
Yeah.
Do we know who observer is yet?
Sorry?
Do we know who the
They-
attendee is that is listed as observer? We don't.
No. I don't.
Okay. Okay, so hearing none from the public, then I will move on to item number 9. The next meeting for the Slocan Valley South Regional Parks Rec Commission is scheduled for May 28th at 7 p.m. And is it possible that we could plan for an in-person meeting? Or where are we at with that?
through the chair, it would be in person. Jenna is arranging for that meeting there. They're starting to reach out and book the halls and those kinds of spaces now.
Okay, so Jenna would be the one to organize that?
Yep, she'll already be on it. As long as that's nothing changes with that date, she will do it. And we will work on the workshop date with you before that meeting.
Right. Okay. All right. Looks
So
like
the
we move to
28th will-
adjournment.
So the
go ahead.
28th will be an in-person meeting?
That's the hope. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Sharon, just through the chair, this meeting was supposed to be an in-person meeting, but it just slipped making the booking.
Okay, yeah, I didn't get any notices that it would be an in-person meeting, but
Yep, that's because we didn't have a space to do it in person.
okay.
Okay. So, I move that we adjourn. Any seconder?
Phil,
And any opposed? No further comments?
Just
Okay,
one, thank you, Eden, for doing a great job chairing.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks, Eden.
Thanks for coming on the call.
hey, Joe, can you stay online for a sec?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask Eden for the same. So Eden, just so you're aware, so the meeting's over, but what we'll do is the minutes will get done.
Yeah.
They will get emailed to you to review, and
Okay.
then we take them to the board.
Okay. Great.
Good night,
Sounds good.
everyone.
Good night, Joe. Can you
Good
stay
night.
on for 1 sec?
Yeah, absolutely.
Eden.
Eden.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow, Joe.
See you tomorrow,
Okay.
Trish.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Joe, still there?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened in the beginning there when it came to the part about, calls for, chairman. You know, I waited for, there was quite a pause and then nobody I was expecting my name actually. So that's why I threw Eden's name out there and nobody threw my name out. So I guess I'm out.
I think,
As chair.
well, no, you're not, because that was only for this meeting.
Oh, unless she takes it.
Well, unless I have to do that process again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so at that
Okay.
May 28th meeting, I'll do that process again.
Yeah.
I think when we meet in person, for the workshop,
Mhm.
I think, there'll be, you know, I think this commission really needs that in-person meeting.
Yeah, I
to get
agree.
reelected.
I agree.
It's definitely missing.
But like I say, there was that long pause when you said, is there any nominations? And my name, nobody said Phil again. So that's why I threw Eden out there.
Yeah, no, I felt it as well.
Yeah, okay, as long as we're on the same page, because I'm
Thanks
still
for
really
rescuing me,
confused.
because we weren't gonna, got quorum and then we weren't gonna go anywhere.
And I couldn't nominate myself, so anyways, okay, well, whatever, we'll figure out next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, have a good evening. Talk to you
Yeah,
later.
you too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
See
Pearl.
you, Pearl.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Pearl, are you there? Pearl?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I don't have an option other than leave the meeting. Do you have when you click on the X, do you have an option
Right.
that says exit them or close the meeting?
No, just, or end, it says leave meeting or end meeting for everyone. That's why I didn't
Please
leave.
select end meeting for everyone.
Okay, I will do
Okay,
that.
great.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night.